already working with some students on some things, but we wanted him to come today to just kind of give a general overview of things that you can do on your own to help you stay healthy as string players. So I'm going to turn it right over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Jerry Purvis. I'm the kinesiotherapy program coordinator. Kinesiotherapy, if you may or may not have heard of it, you've probably heard of physical therapy. We're similar, have some similarities to physical therapy, but we're a different, unique entity. We focus strictly on the exercise intervention part of therapy. And so that's our key focus. Kines is actually a Greek word meaning movement, so we're a movement-based therapy. Kinesiology is actually a department here on campus, and it's also a 3-hour course in the study of human movement. But my background is in kinesiotherapy. This is a second career for me. I worked as a kinesiotherapist in the Veterans Administration for 32 years and retired, and I got a chance to come back to my program in 2002, kinesiotherapist, which I've been doing now. So I don't want to bore you with too much detail, but the concern, I guess, was with your type of instruments you play. I surmise most of your problem areas, pain, injury, etc., is in the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist. And that's the areas I kind of want to focus on. Now, when overdoing any kind of movement through industry or whatever, you're overdoing it. It's called repetitive motion injury or repetitive motion syndrome. Usually you're kind of moving in an abnormal pattern excessively, and you create various types of joint inflammation and joint trauma. Now, that can be offset. In therapy, we do two things. We try to fix something when it's broken, in other words, heal someone, or we also try to get out front of it and prevent it from happening. So I want to maybe kind of meet in the middle, but talk about some things you can do if you choose to prevent an injury. And the way we do anything is to take the involved muscles and make them stronger. And a stronger muscle withstands any negative impact from repetitive motion, can offset the problems. Now, we make a muscle stronger by encountering a resistance. You've heard, you're familiar with weightlifting. Lifting weights, you can do body weight push-ups. Though weightlifting, let's take, that is what we call a gravity-impacted resistance. The weight, however you move the weight, gravity is pulling the weight to the ground. You create stress on the joint, which is inevitable, as you want to create stress on the muscle. Another type of exercise, which we use a lot in therapy, which I've begun using in my own personal routine a lot. I've been exercising since I was a teenager and haven't stopped, so I've done just about everything you can think. I've tried every type of system. I've done a lot with weights in the past. Not opposed to it, but the other is elastic resistance. You've heard of TheraBands, tubing. I've got several types of the enclosed bands, which are a different type of resistance. This is, if I were a therapist, I am a therapist, hello, and I were treating you, this is the type of resistance I would go with. If I can get this guy untangled here. Now, weights, as you lift weights, you use, to get stronger, you lift the weight depending on the involved muscles. Some exercises, you need smaller weights, some you need larger weights. Same thing with bands. You can have smaller bands to larger bands. It depends on the force encountered and on the movement. Now, some of the shoulder movements we do, now basically I don't want to bore you with too much detail, but there's 8 possible movement patterns in the shoulder. And all human movement occurs at joints. So when you move in any way, you scratch your nose or you play a violin, or anything is movement, you're moving muscle. How movement occurs in the human body, it occurs in every movement occurs in a joint. Elbow joint, wrist joint, etc. And then a muscle is attached by tendons to 2 bones. And when it contracts, it shortens and it pulls one bone toward another. And that's all movement, a human movement is continuation of muscles doing that. They can lengthen or they can shorten under resistance. That's what's occurring. So what I was going to show you some basic exercises, maybe have you want to try some of them out. It's things I would do to deal with your areas which are most involved, where you might mostly feel stress, injury, and also where these injuries occur. It's not just repetitive motion, it's fatigue. When the muscles get, you do something too many times, your muscles get started to fatigue, and then your movement pattern gets sloppy. And then you create more stress on the joint. Now, let me go back to the joint impingements, where a piece of tissue, like a tendon or a blood vessel or a nerve, is pressed together between two bones and causes compression. Also, just with heavy weight lifting, the compression is compressing the joints down too tightly. Elastic resistance can be very effective. It is very effective, and you can gain strength. But when you do, you don't get the joint impairment. You don't get the joint pain. Now you'll have muscle pain maybe that's temporary for the muscle getting sore, but it'll get stronger. As it gets stronger, to retain function. Also, if I put you on a weight training program with just lifting weights, temporarily it might impair some of your precise movement for playing your instrument, because the muscles are fatigued, or the joint, you cause some initial joint pain or soreness, so that would impair your performance. So, let me just show you, like I said, the shoulder moves 8 different ways, and we want to try to encounter those movements. So, and before I say that, something you might choose to do yourself, you say, I want to get stronger. Well, I can go out to the store and buy some weights. Now, where do I keep the weights? Well, I keep them in my apartment or my house. But I need to travel, go visit someone, or go to a motel. I can't take the weights in with me, not too many of them. You can take these bands anywhere. You can take them when I go travel. You can take them to your hotel room, when you go to visit someone, their house. That's another advantage. You can have it with you at any time. Now, I'm going to show you some movements that kind of replicate basic resistance, I'm going to call gravity impacted resistance, which is weights, versus elastic. Now, there's another couple of unique differences between gravity eliminated resistance versus elastic resistance, and it kind of is advantage to your joints. A weight, if I had a 15-pound weight in my hand and I want to do this motion here, I've got 15 pounds of force initially. Right at the extended part of the joint, I'm encountering 15 pounds, and that weight is continuous throughout the movement. Now, if I'm pulling the tendon, the tubing, because the tubing, the resistance gets stronger as the tubing elongates. The more you stretch the tubing, the part of the resistance. But at the initial part of the movement, the resistance is light, and it gets stronger as you contract, get the fully contracted position. In other words, the more you elongate the tubing. So that's a factor of how we would use the equipment. We want to make sure that we're elongating it. But that lack of elongation, lack of initial stress in the joint, actually takes stress off your joint. Now, what you want to do is want to be professional musicians. You want to keep playing your instrument, but you want to get stronger. And you wouldn't mind a little more muscle in it, would you? That's okay. You got a beach coming up summer. A little more muscle, okay, right? That's just an extra benefit, all right? Okay. I always say if I'm trying to get people healthy, they need to lose weight. I don't appeal to the health. I appeal to the vanity. You know, you look better. All right. Let me show you just a few basic movements to get started. Okay, now, there's 2 ways, let me say, I like I started a while ago, you've got TheraBand, which come in strips, in various thicknesses and widths. It's an open-ended. You've got round tubing, which you have to attach handles to, or an apparatus to attach it to the wall, pull on it with a handle. I like the closed loop tubes. Now, you can buy these on Amazon, and they're not that expensive. There's some I do a lot of research as to which type of rubber product has a better quality of resistance and doesn't break, etc. I can give you some recommendations on that. But so you take the closed loop band, I can use it two ways. I can use the entire length of the band in this manner. Here's here's my first go-to exercise of my own routine to get started. So basically you take the tubing. Now when you start to lift, you want to make sure you get some stress on the tube. You don't want to start with slack in the tube. Some stress on the tube. I come up and out. Now if I were teaching my students, they would, it's shoulder flexion, shoulder horizontal abduction. But you don't need to know that. I mean, students do. Okay, all right. This manner right here, I'm working the muscles in the shoulder. And actually there's the shoulder muscles, the deltoid, there's three muscles, the anterior portion, the medial portion, the posterior portion. And they have different movement patterns. So if I'm doing something that's moving, called sagittal plane movement, in this manner, I'm working the anterior portion of the deltoid. If I'm bringing my arm out to the side, I'm working the medial deltoid. If I'm bringing my arm back, I'm working the posterior deltoid. So I'm getting this movement right here, up, just above hair level, back, and down, up, out. You're going to get all components, I'm getting all components of the shoulder to a great degree. That's just a basic starting movement. Now, bands, if I get to a heavier band, I won't do that movement. Well, you want to select the bands for the type of the large muscle, the size of the muscles can be doing the movement. Larger band, not going to quite happen, right? Okay? So you need, and everybody, we have different strengths. Now, I've got some of my students that want to challenge me. They can take the band and do what I did with the thick band, all right? But I could do that years ago, all right? Anyway, but the point is, find a band for each exercise, and you can quickly figure that out through trial and error that allows you to do the movement. Now, when I keep saying do the movement, I've been using bands off and on for many years. I came across some recent studies about a month or two ago, which was an eye-opener for me. I've been training in that manner, and it's amazing. I wasn't quite totally using them effectively. And it really is, you just got to pull a little bit harder. I won't get into all the details, but the fundamentals of when we do, you do weightlifting or exercise, you do repetitions and sets. A set is a series of repetitions, as you know. A repetition is an individual movement. So a lot of weightlifting, maybe 10 to 12 reps is a common pattern. With the bands, you need anywhere between a minimum of 20, 15, bare minimum, up to about 40 or 50. You just take the repetitions, however easy it is, until it gets very hard, until you really can't complete the movement. Then you know it's called progressive overload, where you strengthen the muscle to the extent it needs. Now, I showed you a light shoulder exercise. Now, another one we could do, instead of using the entire open loop of the band, is you double the band. Now, if I want to do another one, I can double the band, and I want to create range of motion in my shoulder. They call external rotation, which is it's a weakness. What I've just accomplished here is external rotation of the shoulder and scapular retraction. We're squeezing the shoulder blades together. That's a common weakness with many people. This is a great exercise here. Need a little more force. If I want to work the muscle shoulder a different way, I just come across the front in this manner here. When I say the shoulder internal rotation quickly, this is my shoulder. This is external rotation. This is internal rotation. Many people, sometimes internal rotation overpowers external rotation. Many ways to know if you're tight. One way, if you're sitting in the car, have you ever been sitting in your car and you have a briefcase and you want to put it in the back seat and you feel like you just ripped your arm off? Oh my God. And because what you did, you had to externally rotate. And you didn't have, you hear about people getting injured lifting weights, just about all the injuries are overstretch injuries. Now with bands, we're going to minimize the overstretching, but we can actually strengthen the muscles to prevent that from happening. Now, other ways to use the band, I want to show what's the benefit of using the larger band, okay? Another exercise to use the larger band is take it in this manner right here, and just like if I were going to what's called a press, an overhead press of a barbell, or 2 dumbbells, and then in this manner right here. Now you can use more force, different move. I'm working the shoulders in a different manner, but you're still getting the benefit of strength. Everything you need to do needs to come through the shoulders, elbows, and the wrist. I'm getting elbow extension, shoulder flexion. The wrists are involved. The wrists are involved. Advantage here, I'm having to hold on to the band instead of having a handle. I'm actually having to grip the band itself. Now, everybody knows pretty much what a bench press is, and the bench press builds the chest muscles, which are the pectoralis major for my students, but the chest muscle. All right, you know what a bench, you have to lay on a bench, put a weight on your chest. Actually, a push-up is the same, working the same muscle group as a bench press. So push-ups, closed chain, bench press is open. You don't need to know that. I keep thinking I'm talking to my. All right. I want you to, in your hotel room, you'll do a quick bench press with the band. Down here, make sure it's below your, I would tell my students, the inferior angle of your scapula, just below your scapula so it doesn't come up and pop you in the back of the head, all right? And then get your hands in here on the band, natural movement. I've got the range of motion I want, bingo. I've got my own bench press. I just brought it with me from home. It's in my hotel room, doing my bench presses. Now, if I do these enough, now I know we don't have a lot of time here, but if you do these enough, you want to keep exercising, keep doing the reps until it starts getting harder. Next thing you know, I'm not quite getting it all the way out. You're just starting toward fatigue. You really want to a little bit harder, a little bit harder. I'm moving the camera forward faster. Okay, real fast, harder. Even to get right to the end, that's the payoff right there. That's where you're going to really start strengthening the muscle. I'll give you a personal testimony. I've been lifting weights a long time. Okay. I started lifting weights when I was 14. That's what got me into my profession. I've been lifting continuously. I think I can say this. Maybe my shoulders feel better than they were at any point before any of you were born. All right? In 20, 30 years, 40, my shoulders feel great. Because I've always had a little shoulder interest, okay, from lifting. There are famous bodybuilders who've had joint replacements. I know I'm dating myself, I know every time, but you guys remember in television, were you Incredible Hulk? Lou Ferrigno? Yes or no? All right. Muscular guy, big guy. He's had both hips and both knees replaced. But he's been a movie star. When he's been a body, he won a major contest, almost beat Schwarzenegger and a Mr. Olympia. And there's other tragic cases where the joints, many of them have had, there's a lot of layer of injury. So what you want to do is get through life, get stronger, have the benefit of fitness without the pain. Now, another thing you do with the exercise, it's called a rowing motion, bent over rowing. You want to work the back muscles and involving some of the other. I can take the band, I double it up again. Here again, I didn't drag the dumbbells into my hotel room. You get the band, you get down, you get a little bit of the tension on the band, and then you pull in this manner right here. Okay, now, if I want to get, improvise here. Okay, I want to work the muscles of the elbow flexors, the biceps. I always call them biceps, now they call them guns and all that stuff. I don't know. Biceps, all right. Notice I put my thumb in here so it doesn't slip out of my hand. And the biceps is one of 3 muscles that actually flex the arm. But the bicep in addition to flex, it wants to supinate, which means it wants to roll the palm up. So I take the bands in this manner here, the thumb's locked in, and I roll up in this manner right here, choosing your own resistance. I'm working the elbow flexors. And now, I was looking for a door, but I don't have one. I was going to show you a way to work the triceps, but no door, no problem, okay? Now, be careful with this one. You don't put it on the neck. There's a muscle below the neck called the trapezius. That's the muscle when you shrug. The big gives an athlete that no neck look. My younger days, if I went in a certain establishment, I learned as a guy not to mess with a guy with no neck. You know, he was, all right. That's the big trapezius muscles. All right, now, put the behind, across the trapezius here, not across my neck. All right. I get enough tubing here that it doesn't slip out of my hand, and I do a tricep extension, just like you would do with a machine. When I say a tricep, it's an elbow extension. The triceps are the muscles behind the arm which extend the elbow. Okay, now, there's a few other variations of moves I could give you, but you don't want to be loaded up with too much. Just the basics one I've shown you. You could go through it. If you do one set of these to all-out effort, that's all you got to do. You could complete these 6 or 8 exercises I've shown you 10 minutes if you do it correctly, and go on with whatever you're going to do that day. And you've got the benefit. In other words, you can work the lower extremity. I can squat with them, use my back, use my legs. But I was going to, there's exercises for that, but I want to show you basically things you can do with the shoulder right now. Okay, now, I think it was anyone else. Well, that's basically, just to kind of review them, we've got the, see if I got a good day going for me. All right, yeah. I can go up and out. Now, I want to bring them up so that I have a little bit of tension on the band to start. Up and out and down. Or, one I didn't show you, the technical term is just called an upright row. And the reason they called it that is you stand upright when you row, all right? Now there you pull it close, now you lead with your elbows. This is incorrect. You lead like you're going to thrust your elbow out to your side. Keep it close to your body. Great to work the shoulders. And I mentioned the trapezius a while ago. That's what supports the head and the neck, and actually supports your spine, your trunk when your posture. Controls your posture when you're in an upright position for a long period of time. So these are all muscles that get involved. Similar to that, there's another one here, or I can go back and do the presses. Back to the bench press. And then the rowing action again. All right. That's it right there. I could go on. I can tell you more about the bands. I can tell you that, you know, years ago when they started sending astronauts into space, with the problem that they would stay up there for 6 months to a year. What happened? The muscles got weak because there was no gravity. And bones get weak if they don't encounter force. We have patients in hospital with them. When someone's laying what we call bed rest, there's no stress on the bones rapidly deteriorate. They say you need calcium, and you do, but to make the body absorb calcium, you have to have weight bearing. The more weight bearing, the better. Walking, in some tests, walking wasn't as effective as running and jumping because of the impact. So you need bone impact to make them absorb calcium, they stay stronger. So astronauts were losing bone mass and muscle. And barbells would float all over the cabin. Weights, tubing, elastic resistance. And that's what they use. So it beats the benefit. Now, but you're not planning to be an astronaut, I don't think, so. What I did, I've got, if you want to, I'll answer any questions you have, or I've got several sets if anybody would like to try it. And if you want to purchase it, I'm not selling them, I'm just saying, there's a web, of all the different places you can find them, this one wasn't on Amazon, but they make the superior product. What I call it superior for 3 reasons. One, the elasticity, the way the feel you get, the elasticity, and the fact that it's the texture, some of them the texture is so smooth that it keeps slipping out of your hand. The texture on this is rough enough that I can grab it and hold it without it slipping. And the third, when I read the reviews, it doesn't break down and tear easily. So the name is Quantum, C-U-A-N-T-U-M, Quantum. Quantum is the name of the company. You can go online, they'll sell the bands at different sizes at different costs. Now they will tell you, each band will tell you it's a 30-pound pull or a 45-pound pull or a 15-pound pull. That's true up to a point, but it means at full elongation. But if the band is if this is a 40-pound pull, then I just make it shorter and then it becomes like a 60-pound. So it has to do, of course, it's not totally accurate. You just use that as kind of a range. If I were you, I was starting out, I would start with a small one and a medium one, and how strong you plan to get is to the large. They have them real wide for heavy movements, larger muscular people, and for people that are doing a lot of the leg work and so forth. Squats, bending, deadlifting and stuff requires a little bit extra force. But I'll answer any questions you have, or if anybody else, go ahead.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, is there a proper way to hold the band so you don't injure your hands, your fingers?
The injury to the hand would be like the injury to the shoulder. You have to, I'm going to say it's a risk, but you have to work the muscle to get it stronger so that it won't get injured. If that makes sense. What I like about the bands, good question, what I like about the bands is not restrict the handle on a barbell or even the handle on 2 restrict your positioning. This is natural. So when I'm holding this and moving it, I'm working the elbow, the shoulder, but I'm also working the muscles in the hand. So I'm grasping it naturally. So I would just say to start out with whatever movement you're doing with a lighter band that allows you to do a larger amount of range of repetitions. And I think your muscles control the wrist and fingers will get stronger naturally. And I think this is an advantage over just holding a handle.
So Jerry, you touched on something that I wanted to ask about, and that is, I know that in all of those exercises, you're working the muscles from here to here as well as the shoulder muscles. But so many of the injuries that are encountered in strength training happen from here to here.
Okay.
And so are there more specific exercises that can be done for this joint, the forearm, and the wrist and the hand that could possibly help strengthen that as well?
Yes. Now, when I do the band here, what I did a while ago with the curl, all right, this, even though I'm working the elbow, the wrist has to hold on. So it's called, the wrist is getting a lot of strength just from having to hold on. Now, think of, if I want to go when we flex the arm, we use different muscles depending if the forearm is supinated, meaning the palm's up, pronated, palm down, or mid position with the humeral radial side up. So if I want to work on that, I would focus a lot on the curls with different hand positions. This manner here. If you wanted to get specific, seem to get creative here. I would, okay, you could do this. So you could create your own movement. Now I'm getting directly more involved in the wrist. See, the wrist is the wrist is getting stronger because it's having to grasp and hold. All right? I would say anything, so anything when I'm answering your question, yeah, we can do isolated movements, but I believe, see, the arm, you can't, even though the wrist is getting a lot of the repetitive motion, the shoulders are having to hold in position. I mean, best what I can stop. Help me out here. We got violins and cellos and what are they?
Violin, violas, cellos, and double basses.
And that's the big one, right?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
So now, and you know, two of those instruments play in a similar fashion, and then two of them play in a different similar fashion. So yeah, I believe that different sets of muscles are going to be at work with the two different types of instruments.
I have another idea too, and I actually do it in therapy sometime when I exercise injury with my hand. I don't have one with me, but a basic rubber band. If you work with me on this, you take, if you really want to add to what we're doing here. Now, let me reinforce what I'm doing here when I'm grasping and holding. I'm working the muscle wrist. Put the rubber band around your all your 5 fingers and just expand it. And after doing direct, isolated, sometime when we're in hand rehabilitation, we've had hand surgery, this is kind of initial movement that we might do in that manner right here. Now, opening, the hands open and the hands flex. The hands extend and flex, the fingers. Without the things that when people get inactive, we battle joint contractures. And joint contractures means the joint gets tight and it will not allow full movement. And usually it's the flexors are the problem. With our patients, it's the hips and knees are the big area. They lay in bed or they sit in a wheelchair all day. And the joint doesn't move. Patients, I've seen patients in bed rest and the fingers are down constantly curled. So we want to work, so focus on the extensors. So get the hands stronger. I would say, in addition to that, if you really want to work to add to what we're doing here, it's different size rubber bands and practice that full extension. Anything else? Yeah.
Do you recommend using potties?
What now?
The potty, you know, like
Play-Doh, yeah, Play-Doh, yes. That's, if you take Play-Doh, you could squeeze it, and that's another thing for using the hands in different, you know, you are doing flexing, a little bit of extension, but yeah, Play-Doh would be, that's a great idea. That's exactly something in therapy that we do from time to time, you know. So you Play-Doh or any type of substance that has an elastic quality to it like that, and that would be great.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Well, I play the cello and sometimes I get stuck. And sometimes, because, well, I sit this way and I play the cello, but sometimes I know I have to work on that. I play in high notes and I tend to do this with my neck to see my hand. And sometimes it's too, like, it's very long, it's a very long time that I do that. And then when I raise my head, it hurts back here. So I don't know if there is any exercise to relax and
There is.
good posture.
And there again, it doesn't cost you, you don't even have to buy a band. There is. Not only what you're saying, you're right. When you're sitting and playing, you're concentrating on what you're playing, the head is forward. Another thing that most people are doing are keyboarding. They can get a computer screen. Or I see this one a lot, you know, I don't know how you're going to fix that one. The head's down. It's called the neck is flexed. So it's in the neck. When we say neck, we say cervical. Head, we say calf. So cervical extend, the neck extensors. There's another form of exercise, not elastic. It's isometric. Isometric means it's where the muscle encounters the resistance, but there's no appreciable movement. So here's a great movement. And I would tell people that having problems, push away from your computer screen and do this periodically, and you can do it at a regimented level. Just take your hands, place them behind your head, push your head into your hands, and try to get your head up straight. You can kind of combination of pull forward with your hands and push back with your head, That's called an isometric contraction. Now, we can do isometric contractions very hard for brief periods of time or moderately hard for longer periods of time. And we can do it for repetitions. What I would say is doing a 12 to 15 second, where you're getting pretty fatigued, so 12 to 15 seconds, pushing your head against your hand, and relax, and do maybe 3 to 4 sets, and you can actually do that 2 or 3 times a day. But if you get used to doing it, if it becomes part of your routine, you'll start noticing appreciable difference there. Now, if I didn't do that, I would have to have some apparatus where I would lay the person face down, we'd put a weight on their head, and have them lift, but that gets, tedious to set up. But there's not a wide range of motion there, but you do want to strengthen the muscles, and it is part of maintaining good posture. So yeah, push against the head, straight up. It's feeling better already. All right, yeah.
Jerry, would strengthening the trapezius be beneficial to that as well?
Yes, and absolutely. Strengthening the trapezius supports the head. Like I say, the head weighs 10 to 12 pounds. So one of my colleagues and then it's suspended on the cervical vertebrae, and you've got supporting muscles. It's like a bowling ball on a stick. Think about 10 to 12 pounds. That's the reason why with concussion, you get somebody rear injury in the car, you get the head going. Sometimes not only it's the brain injuries, it's all the muscle injuries from that. So, yeah, the strengthening the trapezius. Let me repeat some of the band exercises. This one actually, elbows up, is actually getting the trapezius muscles as well. Getting the shoulders, getting the trapezius. My favorite go-to up here. This one, actually, because what I teach my students, the muscles, the trapezius is it controls the movement of the scapula. Remember I said the shoulder moves 8 ways. Every time the shoulder moves, the scapula has to move to support it. So you're getting scapular movement supporting shoulder movement. Actually, when you do an overhead, you're getting a little bit of, so the trapezius is getting a lot of involvement. But if you also wanted to do this one here, we did, when I did a while ago, the one behind the head, this is actually getting the trapezius to contract, meaning it's retracting and pulling the scapula closer together. So wrap it up with the things involving the trapezius. It's going to be a lot of your shoulder movement, an upright row, the expanded row out to the side, coming behind the head, and coming actually in front. All the above. Now the trapezius interacts with remember the rear deltoid muscle, the posterior deltoid, so all those interact, but those are all good movements. Yes?
My question is, for example, in my case, I have no pain, but I have cramp and burning in this part of my
Burning, you said?
burning and cramp. Is that correct?
Cramps.
Yes.
Cramps, okay. The cramps could be from when the muscle gets extremely fatigued. And in other words, what you're doing, maybe in the intensity when you're playing that instrument, your muscles starting to get you can't. The music's not over. You got to keep playing.
But I don't feel it when I play. I feel it later. Maybe I want to grab something that is so far, and I do this.
That's
I have to
because
stop.
you now have inflammation in that area. Yeah.
So does it work for that? Or?
All right.
Jerry, she's a violinist, so
Okay.
she's working this shoulder constantly.
Exercises, it's not a quick fix. I believe if you're patient with it, and if you do these things, you won't see like the next day I'm fixed and I'm ready to go, but if you do it over time, you'll start to see the resistance. I mean, that's what therapy is a lot of repetition day after day. Repetition to walk, to get strong, it's repetition. I do believe, yeah, what you're feeling will get better over time. as you start to get the muscles stronger. Plus, you're using the associated muscles for when you're doing a lot of the playing, but you're using the surrounding muscles in a different way. And there again, I can show you some similar things to do with gravity resisted, which might even make your condition, I think, might probably make it feel a little worse if you don't do it very carefully. I think and I'm doing my own personal research again into elastic resistance, just to prove to myself the things that I believe are happening. But I think it's the opening, the way the resistance is applied, it's initiated, that is the difference, the deal breaker. I know it's just empirical, it's just my own personal observation. I know when I started working out with these much harder than I was not even in the right league before. I learned how to use them much harder but more effectively. And I started feeling the natural fatigue you would feel with a muscle, but I didn't feel any pain. No joint. My shoulders feel great. And I'm thank the good Lord. I mean anyway, so yeah, I hope that if you give it a try. Yes.
So, additional to the exercises, would there be any benefit to putting either something hot or something cold, or what creams or anything could we use to?
Well, there's protocols for that. Now, when I said I'm a kinesio, we do exercise, so it's not our scope of practice, and so legally we don't teach the students how to do it. But there is benefit. We all know that benefit of heat and cold. Cold is cryotherapy. Sometimes putting cold or heat. It's palliative. It can help control pain, maybe reduce edema, but it never got anybody out of bed to walk. It doesn't make it. In the end, they got to get stronger. But yeah, to answer your question, it can help pain, and help you feel and improve. You know. But as far as usually when those help, it's because there's some kind of trauma has been incurred, and you have inflammation, so it has to help reduce inflammation.
Yeah, because I had this stretched here. I almost fell, so I stretched, and playing has also kind of doesn't always work. So this was hurt, and sometimes after a certain time of doing either this or this, it hurts for a while. So I've noticed that sometimes putting heat, and I want to know if I could put like cold, it could work.
There's two theories. It's like one of those who do you ask, you know, but there's benefit of both. Cold helps some people feel much better. You get a cold pack, you can put it in the refrigerator, you know it's got a gel type substance, you know what I'm talking about. Or you can just wrap the ice cubes in a cloth or something. Cold kind of though reduces swelling, like you got a sprained ankle or something, you know, you put a cold pack around it. Heat increases circulation to the area. Cold actually restricts the vessel, heat expands. There's even a contrast therapy where they do both. So yeah, that'll give you temporary relief from pain. But as far as permanent recovery, you need to strengthen the movement, strengthen the exercises.
Why don't you ask you something specifically about my case? I have a sciatic inflammation, and any of those exercises of pulling makes it, I feel a lot of pain. So how can I work with
You said sciatic?
that? Yeah,
That's in your hip.
yeah,
Okay, you have that?
yeah.
I would get some medical treatment first. I would see a physician first, and then once the sciatica does eventually go away, it can be very painful. But and I would seek some medical advice first. So I know what this, you know, and then make sure, because you got the sciatic nerve is the largest nerve in the body, and the nerve is getting pressure. So you want to make sure that. And then after the sciatic, that's in your hip. So then I would show you some other hip type exercises.
Okay. I went to the clinic and they gave me medication, but no advice of stretching.
About that,
On the road,
I suffered that like 2 years ago, and they do nothing about it. You just have to fight, like they have to give you a referral to another clinic, because they won't do anything to help you at all. So you just have to go and tell them, I need a referral to another clinic, and they will send you to a clinic that your insurance covers it. So just fight for it.
And what you do, you need exercise. sciatic, I'm gonna do something to work the hip. So if I were gonna do something to work the hip, I might do something in this manner here. Lean forward, and then standing up with it. You need a pretty heavy band because it's stronger muscles. This manner right here. And if you want to get squatting in, you can get different type of core training exercises. But right now, sciatica is not, it's something is traumatized the sciatic nerve. When I travel and drive all day long, I put my billfold in my front pocket because the sitting on your billfold causes me temporarily ill, sciatica. So because you've got that pressure directly on it. And you might think about things like that too. Those can be an aggravating situation. But yeah, there's exercises we can show you to re-strengthen the area, but get you some, get the initial stage of healing out of the way. As Anna Ruth said, then you got to go fight to get somebody to give you something what you got.
Or they can send you to a chiropractor, and they will. I had therapy in 2015 for over 3 months every day, so that helped a lot. I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand, I couldn't do anything. So they will help you a lot. The chiropractor helps a lot.
And that chiropractic is not in my school of practice. I personally have gone to chiropractors, but like I say, I want to be careful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a question. Before do those exercises, do you recommend some exercise for warming up, or something special?
Warm-ups, here's the cut. Warm-ups are kind of overdone sometimes, but warm-ups if you're going to lift a real heavy weight, if you want to make the muscle, you're going to challenge the muscle initially, real hard. Warm up, but it does increase the circulation and it warms the tissue a little bit. The way you do the bands, if you start with a lighter weight that you're going to do a lot of repetitions, you've got your built-in warm-up right there. So I incorporate the warm-up with the extra. Good. If I were going to do heavy bench pressing like I did before, or heavy squatting, which I can only do a few, it's so heavy I'm only lifting 2 to 3 times, 2 to 3 reps, I would definitely do warm-ups. But on this, and if I go to my go-to movement here, that I call it what I start with, I've encountered after about 30 reps of this, I've already got my warm-up, which carries over to all the other movements. So even though each movement's kind of a little bit different, it has associated crossover movement patterns. But yeah, warm-ups, don't start out with if I were going to start out with something that was like in this one here, if I were going to try to pull this one for that same move, definitely I would want to warm up first. I'll show you how to do it. I see. But yeah, I would definitely want, if it's that hard, I would do a warm up first. But you don't have to warm up too much. I've seen people go out and they stretch for 20 minutes and run for 5 minutes and come home. You know what I mean? They stretch more. Yeah.
So, Melissa, over here.
Yeah.
I have a lot of steel points on my back and my oppression syndrome. So doing these exercises that get your muscles stronger, I'm afraid that it's already like really tight, and the exercises helps to untie those muscles or something.
All right, I'll give you my opinion. If it was me with your condition and I developed that, I would go to the exercise. But Anna Ruth mentioned the chiropractor. I'll tell you another one is a reputable massage therapist. They have different massage techniques. A massage procedure to that area followed up then by exercises could be an uneventful, unnecessary, and a helpful step in your recovery. So eventually you can just go straight to the exercises. So I would not rule out something of that nature as well.
So I have to wait until you start with this exercise.
Well, I'm not telling you to wait or not wait. But if you try the movement or you're getting pain, if you're not getting any pain, I would continue. Sometimes I tell, even when I'm teaching someone to lift a weight, it's just a matter they say, boy, when I do my press these two down, it hurts. But I say, okay, move your shoulder just a little bit, change the angle, and it's no pain. What you're doing, you're finding that pattern of movement, that groove, so to speak. I would kind of work with it. I do things I can't recommend to other clients. The procedure you're supposed to do when you sprain your ankle. I was teaching a kinesiology section over in the International Building, the big stadium back there, and a kid was handing his paper. I was on the back row, and they had an extra step, and I missed a step. I came down 2 flights, turned my ankle, fell on the floor. Everybody fell on the floor, and I got up. I'm okay. Lied to everybody. I'm fine. I walked back across to the campus, to the building, which was across the Trent lot. All those 5 things you're supposed to, I did on them. I kept working. But that's just me. I wouldn't recommend you do that. But anyway, so sometimes you work through pain. I did one more stupid thing I'll tell you. You know the stability balls? You've seen, with the balance balls. And they're good for stabilization. And you can do your exercises on them. And it helps you, when you work from an unstable surface, it brings stabilization into the movement. And it increases that efficiency. So I had, back then, a pair of 50-pound dumbbells. I was doing some bench presses back in our clinic when I should have been doing something else. And I had this Swiss ball aired up too tight. And on the 4th rep, the ball exploded. And my shoulder went this way with the weight. I probably damaged my labrum, and I should have gone and gotten some, but I'm going to work through it. And 3 months later, I'm fine again. So I don't recommend that. But I'm not sure what I told you, but the point is, what I'm trying, I guess that's the reason I said it. Find a balance. Therapists, we want to be cautious, and we want to be careful. And like Hippocrates said, first of all, do no harm. But you can be so overcautious that you don't ever get results. You have to push a little bit. Each of you, when you have your condition, I would take these exercises, I would work with them. If you get a little discomfort, I would work through the reps. If the problem continues to feel worse, I would stop, maybe try a different movement. But I would be patient with it and give it a chance. I firmly believe that I can help you. And if the muscles are strong and stable, they're able to withstand the forces and allow you to do what you really want to do. Someone told me you guys practice, what, 8 hours a day sometime or more?
Sometimes 6 to 8 hours a day they'll be on there.
That is incredible, and that is a lot of stress. Wow. And that's got a lot of dedication. Yes?
I don't know, but if the exercises that I already showed also applies for the lower back.
There's exercise for every part of the body. There's different exercises for the lower back.
Yeah, because at least for cellists and string-based players, we struggle with that a lot.
Okay.
And obviously, it could be most of the time posture issues, but I mean, like exercises to get it stronger,
Okay.
to not have that pain, like at least a lot, but like.
And I'm assuming when you play, you're leaning over a lot, kind of? Yeah, and you're putting stress on your spinae erector muscle, yes. Yeah, I'm going to do like I do in my class. I want a student volunteer. Who wants to be, doesn't have a back problem? You don't have any back, nobody doesn't have any back pain?
No, there is. Teresa.
I don't have a longer table, but if you can lay, you would mind laying face down so your feet are on the
Get your body on the table.
Now, all I want you to do this on a longer table, okay? Now, lift your shoulders and chest off the table. Now, not your arms. Lift your chest. Your whole body. There you go. All right. Hold it and relax. Come down. Just relax. Bring it up and hold it. Bring it up. Now, where I have my fingers, this is the spine erector muscles, which run the full column and on the side of the spine. This is excellent exercise for strengthening the lower back. There's other things we can do, but this is you don't require anything but the floor. Okay, you can actually do this flat on the carpeted floor. We got the coronavirus. I didn't want to do it on the floor. But you don't. This is not one where you do quick repetitions. This is back to the isometric, because that's what these muscles do. They they're called upon not to do a lot of this, but they're called upon to hold that position and hold it rigid. So this is one of the quickest one right there. I put you two right there. It's strengthening, directly strengthening them. Thank you very much.
Jerry, you can also do that on an exercise ball.
Yeah,
right?
you can do it on an exercise ball.
Pull yourself up, put it
Just
under
make
the
sure you
hips.
don't air it up all the way. And then the other thing too, you're over in the pain center, if for whatever reason they call it a Roman chair. You've seen that, if you've been in the pain center, so go to doors up, PA, why don't, go. All right, I teach my students. I got students major in kinesiotherapy and they don't exercise. I won't make you life miserable, I said, if you don't exercise. Anyway, the point is that you lay across, you've got a pad to put your abdomen on, and you've got your heels hooked in a bar behind you, and then you lean forward on the bar. That's even expanding what I did with her just then. But what you're doing is the coming up part, you're strengthening and stabilizing those muscles. So if you're in a gym and you have a chance to get one of those pieces of equipment, and then that would be an excellent thing to use as well. Yes.
How do you keep your muscles from getting painfully stiff when they're in a similar position for a long time? Because my neck, I have the violin under my neck and it stays like that for long periods of time. And it never happens with my bow arm, which is constantly moving, but my left arm, which stays bent here, like I feel like I have to extend it and it always pops. And my stand partner will tell you in rest periods, I roll my neck and it pops and crackles like crazy. So how do you like that?
Wow. Back to the original question, stiffness, you counter that by movement. Patients have a stroke, we stand them up the first day if we can, movement, get them back to moving. But the pains you demonstrate, the discomfort you described, I firmly believe over time will be less and less once you start conditioning the associated muscles. I think it comes back to exercise. So yes, you are having that and it is real. And I think, and you're required to hold that position, but I think you will be able to hold that position longer and you would be, and the pain would be less once you're conditioned. Can I give you another analogy, like if you have amount of time here? If you want to run a marathon, you haven't run anymore, you can't run to the corner without collapsing. You have to build up over time. Marathon is 26 miles, but you build up over months' time, adding a little bit each day. Then running a shorter distance is no problem at all. So it's kind of an overcompensation, but I do believe, I understand what you're saying. I believe it's real, but I think it'll get better if you do the proper strengthening.
Hey everybody, we have another meeting in here. I'm really sorry. I know you have a lot of questions, and I promise we'll bring Mr. Purvis back, but let's thank him for his time today.
And questions, jerry.purvis@usm.edu. All right.
Yeah, and I just close with this. You all spend so much time doing your repetitive motion, that you would think that you would build up the muscles involved with that motion. But what's really happening is that you spend so much time in that motion that you ignore all of your other muscles that are involved with that motion, and you do no exercise. I was there at the first session with the physical therapy people who were feeling forearms and wrists and shoulders, and I was amazed at how supple these muscles were that you all were using every day. And I was like, my arm doesn't feel like that. I can feel every muscle in my arm. And so it's the ignoring of the support system that you need in your entire body, from here through here, that I think you need to pay some attention to. And as Jerry said, you can do it in 10, 15 minutes a day. So it's not like it's going to take half your day to do it. Okay?
Do it 8 hours a day, just like doing it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all. There's international students.